Yeah, I will have started recording. I will also share my screen. Yeah, so you are able to see my screen, right? Now let's talk about what did we discuss in the last session. We discussed who can see what records, right? So now what what we discussed is FLS, field level security, and the FLS we assign this in profiles or permission sets, right? So let's remember that there are 3 steps, and OLS, FLS, and RLS are step by step. So you can assign CRUD permission here. You can assign CRUD permission here. You can assign like visibility, invisibility, or visibility, editability in this. And record level security can be 3 things: private, read only, and read write. Right? These are the things which we discussed last day. So if the CRUD permission, if you do not have update permission here, even if you have read write permission here, it does not work. Clear? So that we already discussed. So in field level security, what we saw that either you have that field, you can see that field, and if you can see that field, can you edit that field? So today, there are 2 kinds of fields we know, right? One is a standard field, and another is a custom field which you create, right? So Salesforce does not give it, and so standard fields are Salesforce gives it. Now, there might be different reasons why the standard fields you want to make them mandatory fields, right, for your business process. By default, Salesforce makes only a basic fields mandatory. For account, maybe the name field is mandatory. For contact, the last name is mandatory only. For opportunity, close date is mandatory. Close date, and I think opportunity stage is mandatory. So these are like basic Salesforce mandatory stuff, and you may don't want, the business does not want only these fields to be mandatory. They need some more information, and they want to make it mandatory. If that is the case, then standard fields cannot be modified, which we already discussed. Custom fields you can modify. So there are different ways of making a field mandatory. So if you are working on standard fields, then the approach can be different. And if you're working on a custom field, then the approach can be different. So there are 3 ways to make a field mandatory. One way is to make it mandatory in the field itself. Yeah, field type. So you make it there, you get a mandatory checkbox tick. So mandatory checkbox you will get in custom field when you create the field, or you can go and update that field. So mandatory checkbox is possible to be done, but in standard fields, the mandatory checkbox is not available. So you cannot make a standard field mandatory by ticking the mandatory checkbox. Okay, or required checkbox. That is what you just said. So field type changes cannot be done in standard fields. Field type changes can be done in custom fields. So if you are using a custom field, you can make that field mandatory directly on the field type itself. So when you create that field, you make it mandatory, or maybe later also you can go ahead edit that field and you can make it mandatory, right? Another way of doing a mandatory is using the page layout. In the page layout itself, you can make a field mandatory. Standard fields and custom fields both can be made mandatory in page layouts. And the third option is using validation rules. In validation rule, what you do is that you will check whether the there is a is blank check. There is a formula called is blank. When that field is blank, at that point you block the saving. That is how you make the field mandatory. So we'll see all these options, but standard fields can be made mandatory this way. Custom fields also can be made mandatory this way. So now the question to you guys, which I have, is that when to use what? You have standard field, you can make a standard field mandatory through page layout, and you can make a standard field mandatory through validation rule. So which one should I use when? Any ideas? Any responses from your side? Go ahead and just try to attempt.
Which one? Can you repeat the question?
So there are two ways of making a standard field mandatory, right? The page layout and the validation rule.
Yeah.
When to use what? And like, if there are both ways, then how do I decide what to use? Palak, Sanchari.
So when we create the field in process builder, then field should be placed in page layout.
Process builder, how will you create a field in process builder?
By drag the uh, field type into the object.
That is not process builder, that is object manager. In object manager, you create a field, right? We'll see that. So in object manager, when you create a field, you add it automatically to a page layout, and you also add it to a profile.
Yes.
Right. So let's see this. Okay. So I will come to this diagram later. I think some basics needs to be first clarified. So I will start sharing on other screen. Just give me 1 second. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you help me out. How you have done your trailheads? How do we create a field? You by now you should be aware of that.
From
Tell me.
setup, then object manager.
From setup, I go to, let's create a field on account, right? So in setup, we have home and object manager.
Then object manager.
Then I select the account, which object I want to create the field. Here I have fields and relationship, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So if I go to fields and relationship, I can create a new field. When I create a new field, let's talk about a new field. Let's take maybe a text field, which is the most used field in Salesforce. So I create a text field, I give it a name, PCS demo, and 255 characters is the highest length of a text. So let's use all. And you see, this is a required checkbox, right? This is what we were talking about. So this is what I said, that custom field can be made like required by ticking this checkbox. And if you do next, you automatically add these to the field. These are the like profiles on which you want to add this field. So you are giving FLS permissions here. It is a bulk way of updating all profiles. And then basically you go ahead and add this to layout also. Yeah. So that's how we do this. So when we add a field to an account, so you see this, we have added the PCS global here. This is PCS demo text field. You can go there, and probably at a later date, you don't want this to be made required. So you can go and uncheck this, right? So that's how you can, or if you have made, if you unchecked on the very first, you can make it required at a later date. Okay. So that is the way you can make a field required. And when you make a field required in UI, when you go and create an account, this PCS demo field becomes mandatory, and this is a automatically star button which comes up, right? Which shows you that this is a mandatory field. So if you do not fill it, you see it is already marked as red. So all I did is create a field and made it mandatory. Salesforce takes care of like highlighting field while in information, and complete this field is something which we need. So now if you see any standard fields of Salesforce, let's go back to account, and maybe account number is a standard field, right? So if I go to account number and I edit this, there is nothing called a required field, right? I cannot go and make this field required. Clear? So, but I want to make account number mandatory. If I go to account, you see this account number field. What is that? Account number field is here. Account number field is not mandatory. When I'm saving, it is not showing up, or it is not asking me to fill the values of an account number, right? So how do I make this field mandatory? There are two options, as I said, in standard fields. One is you can create validation rules directly from here. You can create the validation rule on that field also. So let's create a validation rule. What I want to make sure is that mandatory check. Mandatory check. So what I have to do, I have to create a formula field here, just like in Excel sheet. Excel formulas here. Then, so I have to check that if you see this, there is a formula field is blank. So this will be used for your mandatory checks. So you make it, double click it, and it comes to your field. And here this expression you insert on which field you want to make it. Account number field you want to make. And you insert it. So you see the is blank is now account number. Here the condition is if account number is blank, then I have to stop. So validation rule is a blocker. So the condition which you don't want to allow, that condition you have to write it here. Okay. And the conditions outside of any conditions which is allowed, you don't have to mention anything. It will automatically save, right? So please remember that the requirements will come to you probably in the other way around. So you have to be very careful that you are putting the correct conditions here. So you might have a requirement like allow values from 6 to 100 only, right? That would be a requirement on a field. Allow values from 6 to 100 only. In that case, what is the condition you have to do it here? Probably if it is a number field, you have to give if 1 to 100 1 to 5 is number, or be above 100. If that is the condition, then you have to put a blocker, right? So clearly read the requirements which comes, and based on that your condition you have to create. Error messages is fill this field. Yeah. So, and I want to show this error in the just beside the field. I can go ahead and show that in the top of the page also. Yeah. So let's save it. And let's go to my account once again. And if I go and save, you see now I will complete these fields. And do a save. These, so there are some other validation rules also. So account number is now popping up, you see. So I have given a fill this field. So that is now, and the other messages, other validation rules I have provided that comes on the top. So it is been listed here, but account number is now been made mandatory this way. Okay, so standard fields is one way of doing mandatory is this. Another way of doing a standard field mandatory is I will go and delete this validation check first. So if you go to the validation rule, you see this mandatory check is already there. So I will go and delete this. I don't need this. And there are other validation rules which I have already set up, as you see. Yeah, that is the reason why you are getting that messages. Anyway, so right now the validation rule is not there. So now what is the other way of doing it? So if I go to the layouts, right, page layouts, and I go to the account layout. One second. No, I went off, right? Okay. It's back, right? Somehow I think the internet went out for somebody. Okay. So if you go to the page layout, here this is a page layout of account, wherein you have all the fields getting displayed. What is this fields? This is exactly the screen which you are seeing right now, this one. Or if you go to an account in the detail page, whatever you see is the same. This is the same layout. You see an owner, account name, parent account, owner, account name, parent account, the same structure, phone, fax, and website here. So phone, fax, and website here. Yeah. So this is the structure. You can drag and drop these, and you can make these like in one row. You can make these in one row. So you can drag and drop and play around this field, make it according to your style. So make probably the mandatory fields will go on the top. That's how you want to keep it. Yeah. So that is how it works. Another thing which you can do is that this PCS demo field, sorry, what was that? Account number, right? This account number, this was standard field. Here, there is a ranch button here. If you click that one, you can make this required here. And if you do that and save it, and probably do a refresh here. And new account, you'll see account number is now showing a star. Yeah, this is the other way of doing a field mandatory. Now, what is the difference between using a validation rule? The when to use what, and what do you think is the correct way of doing a field mandatory? Go ahead and feel free to like. Just give me one second.
Actually, both are the ways to make the field mandatory. Make us.
Yes, but when to use what? How will you decide what to use when?
So in validation rule, when we have to specify some condition,
Validation rule, you have to specify some condition. That's correct, but you can use a validation rule to create a mandatory field, right? And you can also use a required field. So let me go back to my drawing board once again. So here, right, this we are discussing. So making a field mandatory when we create it, that is possible in custom field type. In standard field, we don't get this option. Page layout option is available for both standard fields and custom fields. Validation rule is available for validation rule and obviously custom field, both, right?
What is FT? FT is full
field type. Field type.
Field type. Okay.
Field type, yeah. So you
So
go to that field itself and made that required. If you make it on the field level itself, you make it required,
okay.
then obviously
Okay.
that is available only for custom fields, not for standard fields, right?
Yes. Right.
So now if this is the case, then when to use what? So if there is a requirement to make a field mandatory, first you have to ask whether this is a custom field or a standard field. And if it is a custom field, most probably you will go and check this box in the field itself. That is the
Yeah.
first option to use. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it is a standard field, then there are two requirements, PL and VR, right? What to use, when to use what. So it is important to understand that PL only, or the page layout change, or what we showed here, only works for screen, Salesforce screen. This will not work for data loading. When you are trying to load a data and you want to make a check that this field needs to be made mandatory when you are loading the data also. So page layout is not an option to use. Are you getting the point? Page layout, making it mandatory only happens when you want to force the people in the UI or using Salesforce to make put values. But the administrator can bypass it, right? Admins are not even using Salesforce screens. They will be directly loading data using Workbench or data loader. So page layout, making a field in page layout mandatory does not stop a data loader to make it blank. Are you getting the point? So most probably you will not use page layout option at all, because this is not giving us full constraint check. So most of the time you will use a validation rule. Validation rule is basically will fire for data loading also, for the UI also. But many of times, because you don't want to show people again and again step by step, because this validation rule fires after the mandatory field type checks has happened. So maybe they have, you saw just now, right? I have first filled all the star marked field and then the validation rules are showing up. So if you don't want to give that experience to end users, probably you will make that field mandatory using page layout also, so that they are not blocked by validation rule. But validation rule will fire when the data loading is happening and the admins will be taken care of. So once again, if you want to make a field mandatory, first check whether I can make the field mandatory in the field type itself. That is, if the custom field is there, then obviously you can go and make it mandatory there. Second, if it is not a mandatory field and it is a standard field, and in standard field you want the system admins also to fill values, in that case make it mandatory in the validation rule by is blank check. And to have a better experience, you can also make this mandatory in the page layout, so that the people who are filling up the values get the idea at the very first and the page itself that these fields will be mandatory for us. Got it?
Sir, can we do this page layout as well as VR for standard field? Can we do the both?
Yes, you should do both.
Okay.
That is what I am saying, that VR, if you just do VR, that will also work, that I have showed you, but it is a two-step process. So first the star marked mandatory field or the field type marked mandatory field will first be validated, and then basically these validation rules fire. So a user will enter all the star mark fields and then save button, and then the validation rules mandatory checks will happen. So they might get frustrated. They might say that why it is not telling me that it is mandatory from the very beginning, right? So when you get this complaint, you can avoid this complaint by putting a page layout mandatory check also on top of a validation rule, so that the validation rule does not need to fire. The user gets an idea on the first attempt itself that this is a
Okay.
mandatory field.
I have a question. When I make a field mandatory in page layout, then only that actually star will appear beside the field.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. So if I do the validation rule, then that star mark will not appear.
Star mark will not appear. That's correct.
Okay.
Validation rule only fires after the save button is clicked. Yes. So till that point, a user will not have an idea. Otherwise, you on the help text you can give this as a mandatory field, but that is not very user friendly, right? So to make the thing user friendly, you might have to put a page layout check on top of validation rule so that they are not getting frustrated. But sometimes you cannot put a star page layout mandatory because the condition might be mandatorily conditionally. So it might so happen that if a pick list value is something, then only this field is mandatory. If that is the case, in that case, there is no way you will put page layout check. Then you have to just rely on the validation rule. Clear?
Hello,
Yeah.
Shanchari here. I have a
Yeah.
doubt, sir.
Yeah.
Here in SFDC, while I was working,
Hmm.
while we work from the user side, so there were given star marks in case of the name of the client,
Hmm.
address, and mail ID.
Hmm.
But I have seen that if I deliver wrong mail ID of that client, then
Hmm.
sometimes it marks error. Like if I miss something dot in, or if I miss that dot, so
Hmm.
that field is there the star is given, so it is a mandatory field. It is also a mandatory field.
Hmm.
But then how that mail ID is getting validated in just
There are
post I have
there
just submitted
yeah there
the
are the
ID.
standard, there can be standard validations which is based on which Salesforce doing, and there can be validation rules which you have written, right? So standard validation is on
Okay.
the data type itself. So if you have a email field type, then Salesforce itself will check that it is a valid email format you have given or not. So for
Okay.
that, you don't have to write any rules. Salesforce checks that. Like if it is a number field and you have typed ABC, something of that sort, it will block you, right? So some standard checks are already given by Salesforce itself for based on the data type. But if you want some special business specific customized business rules check, in that case you have to use the validation rule. So validation rule is not only blank. As I said, there is a huge list of formulas which you can use. If there is a if case, these things you can put in that validation rule and you can check your data. It need not be only mandatory check. It can be anything. It can be length check. It can be, but in data type also you can do length check. Again, standard fields length probably you cannot change. In the custom field, you can put a length value in the field itself. So there are many ways of validating your data, right? Validation rule is the option which you use when you are exhausted with the options of data type itself. In data type, there is a required check. There is a data type of format checking. Both are there. But if these are not like these are not enough, in that case, you will move to validation.
Okay.
Okay. So validation rule is for data sanity. So whatever the data anybody is entering into Salesforce, you want to put that into specific rules, or you want the data to be sanitized before they put any value. So they cannot put garbage, they cannot put unusable data. So you are making sure that the data what they're putting are correct. So validation rule is basically making sure that, or any important data they are not putting, you also forcing people to enter that. Validation rule block or stops the saving of data. Saving can happen when you are creating or you are updating, right? So in create and update, the validation rules will fire, and that will stop the data creation or the record creation itself or updation of the record itself if that field is not corrected, right? So that is all validation rule is doing. Now let's move on to another rule, which is called workflow rule. Workflow. What is a workflow? Workflow is basically a process or a business. Workflow is like a step. Uh, uh, so what happens is that when a record, validation rule fires when before a record is saved, right? So in order to make sure that the record which you are saving is correct, right? Workflow rules fire when the record is saved, after the record is saved, correct? So what happens is that there are multiple things you can do when a record is saved. And when the record is saved, again, the record is saved when you do a create and update. So first thing you can do in a workflow field library is to send emails. Yeah, so record is saved and some people needs to be notified. You can send emails to them. Yeah. Another is, so we call this email alert. Email alerts. Okay, in Salesforce terminology. Second is you can create task. Okay, in Salesforce there is an activity object which we have seen that for under any object, right? All standard objects has activities linked with that. That is also an object in itself. So you can create task after a record is saved. Third thing you can do is outbound messages. Outbound messages is basically sending some SOAP message outside of Salesforce. This is required for integrations. So integration with Salesforce, like when something happens or record is saved in Salesforce, you want another system, maybe Microsoft system, to update something. In that case, outbound messages would be required. And this is HTTP request, HTTP SOAP request. So these, and another thing which you can do is field updates. And what is this field update? You can update a field value automatically when the record is saved. And this you can do for the record on which you are saving, the record which you just saved. So this workflow is firing on that record itself, or any field on that record itself you can update, or you can update any field on the master or parent. Clear? So in parent, this field update will fire, will take care of that, but this will not update your child's. Field update does not work on child's. So Gautam, you are asking a question.
Yeah,
Gautam,
like
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
okay, send emails like send emails about the record just saved, or send emails about the whole object.
No, send emails on the records you just saved.
Okay, so a mail will come in my mailbox that a record has been inserted.
Yeah, let's see how this is configured. We'll see now all this. Okay, let's jump to our Salesforce. So this session was not supposed to handhold you. So if you are still asking these questions, that means you are not going through the trailhead fast. That's not the best use of my or your time. So please go through the trailheads very importantly. These sessions are not for teaching you Salesforce. These sessions are here to teach you Salesforce CRM concepts. So if you are not paying it, like giving time for Salesforce trailhead, these sessions would be less useful for you. Okay, so let's share my screen. So on the home page, before we do that, I just need, okay. On the home, sorry, not on, yeah. On the home page, you see there is a workflow rule. So you see there is workflow actions or rules are there. Before we do that, let's go one by one. First, we will send email when the account is saved or a new account is created. So my part is that when a record is saved or account is updated, probably if many people are updating it, the account owner must know that an account change has happened. Okay. So how do I do that? So I will go to a workflow rule. I create a new rule. Which object I want to fire it on? I want to fire it on account object. What is the rule name? Account create. Or so every time an account is created, I want to fire a rule, and there is always a condition associated with that. So I will say that account name is not equal to blank. So that is a fine formula for me. So this rule is now created, and I can add actions on it. What are the actions? As I said, email alert is one action, field update another option, outbound message is another option, and creating tasks is another option, right? So I can create a new email alert here, or I can go back here and create a email alert, which I can associate. So if I have already any of these items I have already created, I can select an existing action. These are existing, these are new actions. Or if I want to reuse any existing action, I can do that here. So if I have already created an email alert, I want to add this to this workflow, I can do that. But I want to create a new email alert. Description is account create. Now, if you see, there is an email template associated to that, but I don't know which email template to use, right? So I have to go and create an email template first. So let's go to a classic email templates. You can use Lightning email templates also. Let's use this. I have a text format. I can use HTML. Let's use text only. What I want to do, I want to add some account fields when I send this email. So what will I do? Available to use. My email is account create welcome. Subject will be a new account is created. Email body a hi, a new account where I will add the field. Maybe I will add account field. You see, it creates a merge field for me. Merge field is smart tags, which I can use now. I will copy this. Is created now, and you are the owner, right? This is my text. So I will regards Salesforce admin. A new account with account name. This account name can be different, right? For every account, it will be different. So I will go and create a merge field. So whichever account this workflow rule is firing, it will replace the account name value here. Is created, and you are the owner. This is the message I want to send to people. So I have created my email template.
Actually, that copy merge field value. That what does that mean? Copy.
This is basically a smart tag which will be filled by Salesforce using account name value. The name field of account, it will be used whenever the mail is going out. So Salesforce will replace this area with the account name value.
Okay.
Because you want to know which account got created, right? So if I just don't send any merge field, then it is a generic mail. It will be same for any account, right? So you will not know which account this mail is coming from, right? You want to know about the product. You can create more fields. You can say account name, maybe account description also you want to add. So you add another thing here so that you know more about that record which got created. So account create is now done. Now I will go back to my workflow rules. So I see I have gone back to my workflow rules. You see I have created that workflow rule, account create, right? I will to go there, and the same is there. So I want to add now a new workflow rule. So new email alert I will do. So it is called account create email alert. And this template which I am going to use is account create welcome, right? That is what I created, email template. Account create welcome. And whom do I send this? I want to send this to the account owner. Yeah, whoever is the owner of that field. I can send this to a specific user also, but I want to send it to the account owner all the time, right? And do it save. So this is how the email alert is now configured. I will say done, and I will activate this workflow rule. When I activate this workflow rule, one thing I have to check is that what is my email deliverability? This is the email deliverability setting. You need to make sure this. All email service access to send mail is there. That's fine. Yeah, I think that's fine. So here, the email address, probably I will have to go and change my email ID. Otherwise, this will fire my official email. Just give me 1 second. So I will go and change my email ID. Give me 1 second. I will just update my so whenever you change email of your accounts, you immediately get a notification to update that, so that Salesforce makes sure that you're the correct person to change it. So now it is done. I can go back to my email body and I have nothing there. So here I now want to test my email. So I want to go and create an account. Account name is test Animesh. Phone number something. This is demo something. Sure. I think city is Denver, Colorado. 0111. Let's do a save. What fields? Account number, city, billing city. Oh, billing city I put. Test Animesh today. Okay, let's basically PCS. Okay, so I have created a new account called PCS Devo Global account, and you see I have got a mail immediately. It is called a new account, PCS Global Demo account is created, and you are the owner. Yeah. So that is how Salesforce is sending the message when the account is getting created. Now, what if I want to go? If you go to this account, what if I want to put some external ID automatically, or maybe the type automatically, or maybe annual revenue automatically for any account, right? Let's make it annual revenue automatic if I am not filling up this value. So this you can also do using workflow rule. So if you go to the same workflow rule, and I will go and go to edit this workflow rule again. Save. I think I have to deactivate it anyway. Deactivate my rule because I have to again add something. So I'm deactivating it for now. And I now am adding a field update. As I said, field update. Shogun, you can go on mute, I think. Update annual revenue. Field to update is what? Annual revenue of account, right? And what are the options? Shobon, can you go on mute? Hello.
Yeah, Animesh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So the reevaluate workflow after field changes that you can do, or you can. So what are the options? Specify new field value. Use a formula field to set a value. I can set up a logic to set a value, or I can I can set up a null check. So let's go and put some formulas. What I want to show is blank value, or is blank, or blank value. I will put. You see what is the blank value? Checks whether the expression is blank and returns suitable expression. If it is blank, if the expression is not blank, returns the original expression value. So let's use blank value. And yeah. So in blank value, what is the field I am going to use? Account revenue, right? And what is the substitute person? Maybe 10,000. Okay. Let's check syntax. Let's save and test it. Yeah, so this will only happen for the create, right? Criteria is not equals and record is created. So I will have to test it with a new account. So I will go to a new account, PCS global annual web test. Phone numbers. So when I do that, oh, sorry, I completely forgot to activate this. So when I go there, I have to activate this. Otherwise, it will not work because I just deactivated this, right? So I will delete this once again and recreate this. So I get a mail new now. Once again, if I go there and you see, I have got a new mail. This is where new value is created, right? So apart from that, I want to also check whether my rules got fired or not. You see, my rules also got fired and automatically the annual revenue got updated. Yeah. So now if I create a, if you see that I want to do any changes to the fields of my contacts, I cannot do it here, right? If I go and add a field update, what are the objects I can see? Like, let's see, contact create or something of that sort. Field to update. You see, all the account fields are only available to me here. But what happens if I want to create a workflow rule? Go and check if you have created a master detail rule. But let's see if I can get. If you go to contact, the rule name is create contact. Same contact. You see, these fields are not only for contact. They are you are seeing the account fields also here, right? So let's see if I see a contact last name, a contact email not equal to blank, save and next, and add a action, new field update, account update. What I see is that it is only showing me the contact values. I am not able to get any values for my parent. Why is this happening? Any ideas? But I told that you can go ahead and do changes on the fields on the parent. Any idea, guys?
I think the relationship between account and contact is not established. Means master means it is not.
It is established.
Permission set it is allowed.
Permission set. No, if
That
I
is
go to the contact and this relationship between account and contact is already established. This is the account ID. This is a lookup to account. So a contact is a child of account.
But it has to be master detail, right?
That's correct. It has to be a master data relationship. Then only you can go ahead and update the fields of your parent. Let's look into one of the workflow rules of a master digital object. So I think I have one object called band association. No, it is not there. I have another. Just give me 1 second. So I will show that. Let's finish the other tasks before I go jump into that testing. So you need a master data relationship, then only you can go ahead and change the fields of your master. I mentioned master, I did not mention parent. Okay, so that is important. So field update is needed. A workflow rule will only work with master data relationship only for the parent. Master record apart from your own records. Another, so if you don't want, if you have some other criteria to fulfill, what are the criteria? We'll come to that later. But let's finish off workflow rule for now, and then we'll jump into that. So let's go to that workflow once again. So there is, I go and edit it once again, and I have another option called new task. Here I want to assign this to my account manager. Go to the owner account owner, and subject is call in 3 days. So I want to create an automatic task so that I don't forget that after 3 days I have to give a call. Call customer in 3 days. Chapter is not started, so I want to save this. So if I see any of the existing account, you see there is no activity, right? I have to go ahead and create these activities, right? Now, an upcoming overdue activity is also not showing up. So if I now go and create a new account, you see this automatic activity has also now come up here when the account is getting created. So there are 3 things. I'm still getting a new mail. If I go and check the record is automatically revenue is now also been set up, and I have also created a new task. So these 3 things you can achieve using workflow rule. Apart from that, there is a outbound message also, so you can inform other systems. This is a great setup work. We will not be able to complete, and you need another system to host the service. Then only this will work. So the advanced topic. So these 3 things are basics which you have to configure using workflow rule. So let's first understand workflow rules. These are the options. Apart from this, there is a select existing action that you can choose. When you create a new action, you can always choose the email alerts which you have in system. So you can add that in a new like a new workflow rule. So existing these tasks types which you have already created, you can reuse that. Okay. Clear so far?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, what was that question for workflow rule of the master? Let's see if I have that option to log in. I don't have that user ID password with me right now. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I have a. Maybe I will create one. That would be easier. So if I create a new object, create a new custom object, and I label it account details. What I yesterday first I showed that if I make a master data relationship, the owner will be gone, right? I told that. So you'll see that owner field will be gone whenever I create a master data relationship. And master data relationship can be only created on custom objects. So I'm creating account. I'm making account the master for this account detail. So it's a mixture between standard and custom. It's not that you will always have to use 2 custom objects. You can make standard field as a master in a master data relationship. Yeah. So if I do that, you see the account owner, the account details owner field is now gone, right? So now, if I want to create a new field, like text field, or maybe currency field. Where is the currency? Currency field. Field level is amounts, TCV, something of that sort. So now I am creating a validation rule on my TCV. Oh, TCS. Anyway, so this is TCV. I mistyped. So we'll create a new validation rule on this. Rule name is annual revenue update. So what is my logic? You see insert field here, account is there, and through account you will have the account fields also here, right? So maybe if I see blank value, what blank value? I will insert a field called same account revenue, right? If account revenue is blank, then what do I want to substitute this with? The TCV value of my account detail. Clear? No, this is a validation rule. I'm sorry. This has to be walkthrough rule. That is what I completely forgot about it. So I will go and create a walkthrough rule now. I will not do any validation check on that for now. There's no need to do that. So I will create a new walkthrough rule on what is the account detail. Says update annual revenue. Update TCS something else. What is the condition? Condition is when account detail TCS value is not equal to blank, this will fire, and it will do what? It will create a field update on account update TCS. And you see it now, you are able to update the field of the parent. So here you go and update the revenue and use a formula. Here is the formula. What formula is that? Blank value. I insert that if annual revenue, then I will use let's not use blank value at all. Let's use currency. I will use directly the field value. That is no, is blank maybe is, or blank value I will use, correct. So not blank value. Now I will just insert the field itself. So let's add the account detail field itself. That's it. I don't need to do anything else. So annual revenue field will be updated with TCS value field. And let's activate this. So if you go to the account now, and let's refresh this. You will get account details is now created here, you see. And what happens is that you in the details, you will see there is a 10,000 annual revenue has been put. But in related list, if I create a new test change and I put 20,000 now, save. I go to details and I do a refresh. Let's see if that updates here. You see, the annual revenue of the account is now updated because the workflow fully field of child is now basically updated the parent record because this 20,000 was there on the child record. Is it clear? So in master data relationship, the child records can fire a field update for their master. Okay, another field I want to talk today before we, I think it is already overloaded for you. So another thing I want to talk today in your field object manager. Since we have created a master detail field in your account object, now the master object, you have the ability to create a new field, which is called roll-up summary. Yeah. What happens here? Roll-up summary means it's like total amount, something of that sort. If I say, like I want to do a sum, I want to create a sum of all the amount which I have entered in my child records in one field, this field, and I want to show that in my account itself. And you can also select which child records to use. It can be all records, or you can also go and put a certain criteria. So, and I do next, and I give it to everybody, and I save it. It takes a while to show up this field in UI because it is cached, but I will see if this is already showing up or not. What is the field called? Total. It is not showing up. So what I will do is that I will log out and log back. Oops. Well, it will now come up. Total amount is showing up now. Okay. So this is total amount means because I have only one child right now. One child. Now let's create another field. So when I create a test change 2, what happens is that let me put 30,000 here now. So what will happen? This workflow rule from this my child record will go and update my annual revenue, right? 30,000 will now get replaced. But this roll up summary will basically add up. So let's see this a little more. I'll go and change that anyway. So let's go to account now. And in account, in the related list, you will see now there are 2 records, right? Test change 1 and test change 2. So if you see test change, there in details, you will go and see the, and let's refresh the screen, and you will see that the annual revenue has got updated with the next child record, right, which I created right now. But the total amount now is showing the addition of all the childs. So this is the roll-up summary which you can create when you have a master detail relationship. That is not available for lookup masters, lookup parents. Yeah, this is only available for master detail parent only. There you can do many things. You can do a count, you can do a sum, you can do a min, max, everything. Yeah, all these functions you can do using roll-up summary. Through roll-up summary, you can also have a check that you do not, if you want to validate any deletion of your child and so on, you can have a good validation check on this amount and you can block it. Like I will give an example. You want to stop the deletion of your child records. So in that case, you make a validation rule that total amount cannot go below 0, something of that sort. Or the total amount cannot go below 50,000. If you put a validation rule now, when the child records are already created, you cannot delete the child records because this is the validation rule will block it. So that is also a way in which we make sure that the deletion can be blocked of child if we put a validation rule on the roll-up summary. Clear? So this is another field which you also have apart from roll-up summary is the normal formula field. Typically, the formula field will be using the formulas of the other fields of that object. Sorry, I want to go to the account detail. Yeah, this is the object. So typically, if you want to create a new formula field here, test formula. So I want to do a number change. Okay, and what formula I want to create? Maybe I want to check the difference between what is the account details I have is TCS value, right? Let me insert this, and I want to insert. You see, because in account detail I am also getting the account field. So I have created a new formula field, right, for roll-up summary. What is that roll-up summary called? Total revenue. Am I getting this? Total amount. I'm getting it. So let's take this total amount and I do a minus with the TCS, which I'm, and so this is a parent field minus whatever I enter in my record. I want to do a minus, I want to see the difference. If I add this, I go to The layout changes again is cached. So you have to probably log out and log in just to see the changes. I'm sorry about it. Why the layouts are cached? Any ideas? To make it faster, because I cannot every time go and create the screens right in runtime. So to make things fast, Salesforce has cached the layouts. So now if I go to the account screen, let's go to any objects. Same child objects which I have created a formula field right now. So let's go to any child object. You see TCS value what I have entered, and TCS for test formula field is now showing the difference between the total amount, means all the all child put together minus this amount. So it was 50,000 in account. So now it is showing 30,000. If I go and check the other one, it will be the reverse. It will be 30,000 here and 20,000 on the other one, because TCV value is more here.
Sir,
That's
have a
how.
doubt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, while making that roll-up summary, we
Yeah.
have used two fields. One is master and detail, and account detail. Sir, we generally, sir, where to make that field, in account or in the account detail?
Which change are you talking about?
I'm talking about roll-up summary.
The roll-up summary is done on the master.
That means on account side, I have to do it.
That's correct.
Okay. So generally, we make it on the child side, every field.
No, roll-up summary is on the parent.
Okay. Roll-up summary.
Yes, roll-up summary is on the parent. This you can only do when your child has a master detail field of that parent, right? If you create a master detail on child, then only you can create the reverse. In the parent side, you can create a roll-up summary of all the child records. You are right. Most of the time we have seen all the fields or the relationships getting created in the child objects. We never see the reverse, because in all the workflows even we are creating on the child, right? If I want to update the field on my parent, I have to create that workflow on my child record, child object. But I cannot create a workflow on my account and update my child's like account detail. Okay, so that is not possible through workflow rule. Now that will be possible using another thing which is called process builder.
So repeat what you have said just now.
So these things will be possible using process builder. Whatever you are not able to do using the workflow rules is possible using process builder. But
Sir,
this is heavy. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Using flow builder also.
Flow process builders both are two different things. This can work together also. Flow is something which has a UI specifically. It can also be a running project. And process and flows, I will have a separate sessions because this is a whole new chapter wherein we will cover flows and processes in great detail. And if you know flow and processes very well, a lot of development you can do using click and drag and drop. So there is no need to write any line of code at all. So this is very powerful two tools, flows and process builders, which we'll cover in another session. Right now, I wanted to cover workflow and validation rules today with the field levels, mandatory things, checks, and so on using page layouts.
So the sort of task that we can do using workflow, the same thing can be done by flow builder too.
Whatever you can do using workflow can be done using process builder. Whatever you can do using process builder may not be possible in workflow.
By workflow.
Yes, but what you have to make a notice that workflow is faster. So try to use workflow as much as possible, and if that is not possible through workflows, then only go to process builders, because
So
process builders will be heavy.
So generally, which one is used mostly in any corporates or in jobs?
It does not matter. It does not matter. If first we will go ahead and we'll create workflows first.
Okay.
And if it is not possible via workflows, then only we go to process builders. Because process builder maintenance and deployments, everything is very, very complicated. Not very complicated. It's like is more complicated than workflows. Workflow is lightweight. Workflow is very easy to configure. That is why workflow is the number one choice. And workflow is fast, is performant. Okay. But the process builders are getting worked on, and many things which you had to write code before, that is now possible using process builders. And we'll show what are the things which will be possible using process builders in the coming sessions. And do not forget to give your hands dirty in the trailhead models. Go ahead and do the assignments. The more you do the assignments, the more you will get questions to ask in this session, as well as you can connect the dots in these sessions. But if you are not ahead than me, then obviously this session you have to again repeat after you do the session. So you don't want to waste your time. So do the sessions first. That is a mechanical learning, but I will connect the dots in the next session. That's how it will work. So we'll close the day today. I think we have a lot to learn and a lot to practice. So go ahead and feel free and work with all the formula fields, roll-up summaries, process builders, workflow rules, validation rules. Do whatever you want to do, play around with your org. As well as after that, feel free to move ahead in the assignments and try to get your hands dirty with process builder and flows. Clear? Any questions so far? Let me know. So I think there is no questions today. So we'll stop sharing, and we'll also stop recording.